The wine glass shattered against the kitchen wall at exactly 11:47 p.m., red liquid streaming down the white paint like blood from a fresh wound. My wife, Helena, stood there, chest heaving, her perfectly manicured hand still extended from the throw, and I knew our 18-year marriage was officially over. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "You bastard!" she hissed, her voice dripping with the kind of venom that takes years to perfect. "You went through my phone." I stood there in my pajama pants and old MIT t-shirt, holding her iPhone in my hand like evidence in a murder trial. Which, in a way, it was. The murder of everything I thought I knew about my life. The text messages were still open on the screen, a digital love letter from someone named Damon Pierce that made my stomach turn. "Can't wait to feel you again. Your husband has no idea what he's missing." "Tomorrow night at the usual place?" Helena's response had been even worse. "He's so pathetic. Falls asleep by 9 every night. You make me feel alive again." 18 years, Helena. My voice came out steadier than I felt. 18 goddamn years, and this is what I get? She laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "What you get? Eric, you checked out of this marriage 5 years ago. You come home, eat dinner in silence, and fall asleep watching Netflix. When's the last time you even looked at me? Really looked at me?" I wanted to argue, but the truth was a knife twisting in my gut. She wasn't entirely wrong. My IT security consulting business had consumed more and more of my time, especially after landing the Morrison Industries contract. 60-hour weeks had become 70, then 80. Date nights became quarterly events, then annual, then memories. But cheating? That was her choice. "So you decided to solve our problems by screwing some guy named Damon?" I held up the phone. "Real mature, Helena. Really shows your commitment to working things out." Her face went pale. She hadn't expected me to find the burner phone hidden in her yoga bag. Hell, I hadn't expected to find it either. I'd been looking for her car keys when my fingers brushed against the unfamiliar device tucked behind her water bottle. "It's not what you think," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "It's not what I think?" I scrolled through more messages, my anger building with each swipe. "Listen to this one. Eric's working late again. Come over, I need you inside me." Or how about this gem? "He bought me flowers yesterday. Felt so guilty I almost couldn't look at him." Jesus Christ, Helena. She moved toward me, her silk nightgown flowing around her like she was some kind of goddess instead of a cheating wife. "Eric, let me explain." "Explain what? That you've been lying to my face for months? That every time you said you were at book club or wine night with the girls, you were actually with this Damon guy?" I kept scrolling, finding messages going back 6 months. "Look at this. You told him about our anniversary dinner. You complained that I got you roses instead of orchids. You told him I was boring in bed." The last part hit me like a physical blow. We hadn't been intimate in months, but I'd assumed it was stress, work, the normal ebb and flow of a long marriage. I never imagined she was comparing me to someone else. "You want to know what's really pathetic?" I continued, my voice rising. "I actually felt guilty about working so much. I thought I was letting you down. I was planning to cut back, maybe take that trip to Italy you've been talking about for 3 years. Helena's eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't buying it anymore. She was a master manipulator. I was just too stupid to see it before. "Eric, please. It started as just talking. He understood me in ways that I don't," I finished. "Save it, Helena. I've read enough of these messages to know exactly what kind of understanding you two have been doing." My phone buzzed with a text from my daughter Mia, away at college. "Dad, you okay? Mom's been acting weird lately. Even our 18-year-old daughter could see what I'd been blind to. The signs had been there for months. The new clothes, the gym membership she never used, the sudden interest in her appearance, the way she guarded her phone like state secrets. "I want him gone," I said quietly. "This Damon guy. I want him out of our lives." Helena's tears stopped like someone had turned off a faucet. "You can't tell me who I can and can't see." "Watch me." I held up the phone. "Because unless you want these messages forwarded to your sister Karen, your boss at the gallery, and every single person in your precious book club, you'll end this thing right now." Her face went white. Karen was Helena's older sister, a judgmental woman who'd never approved of our marriage and would absolutely love to have ammunition against Helena. And her job at the Whitmore Gallery depended on maintaining a spotless reputation in our small, gossipy town. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "Try me." We stared at each other across the kitchen, two people who'd shared a bed for nearly 2 decades now, facing off like enemies. The wine was still dripping down the wall, and I could hear our neighbor's dog barking through the window. "Fine," she said finally. "I'll end it." But I could see the lie in her eyes. She had no intention of ending anything. She was just buying time, trying to figure out how to manage the situation. Classic Helena, always 3 moves ahead, always calculating the angles. "Good," I said, though I didn't believe her for a second. "I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow we figure out how to fix this mess." As I walked past her toward the stairs, she grabbed my arm. Her touch felt cold, foreign. "Eric," she said softly, "I do love you. I know you don't believe that right now, but I do." I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. She was still beautiful at 39, still the woman who'd caught my eye at that MIT alumni mixer all those years ago. But beauty was just packaging. Inside, she'd become someone I didn't recognize. "No, Helena," I said, gently removing her hand. "You love the idea of me. You love the house I pay for, the lifestyle I provide, the security I represent, but you don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't be texting another man about how pathetic I am." I left her standing in the kitchen with the broken glass and the wine stains, and climbed the stairs to the guest room. But I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat on the bed with her phone, reading through months of messages that painted a picture of a woman I'd never really known. The worst part wasn't the intimacy talk, though that made me feel sick. It wasn't even the way she mocked our marriage, our life together. The worst part was realizing that she was right about one thing. I had checked out. I'd been so focused on building our financial security that I'd forgotten to build our emotional connection. But that didn't excuse what she'd done. And it sure as hell didn't mean I was going to roll over and let her walk all over me. By morning, I had a plan. Chapter 2. The Investigation. I called in sick to work the next day for the first time in 3 years. Helena left for the gallery at her usual time, kissing my cheek like nothing had happened, like she hadn't destroyed our marriage 12 hours earlier. The performance was almost impressive. "Have a good day, honey," she said, her voice sickeningly sweet. "I'm having dinner with Claire tonight, so don't wait up." Claire Morrison, her best friend since college. I wondered if Claire knew about Damon, or if she was just another lie in Helena's carefully constructed web of deception. After Helena left, I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, doing what I did best, gathering information. If my wife wanted to play games, she'd picked the wrong opponent. I'd spent 15 years in IT security, specializing in finding things people didn't want found. First, I needed to know who Damon Pierce was. A simple Google search revealed he was a personal trainer at Elite Fitness, one of those expensive gyms that catered to wealthy housewives and executives with more money than sense. His Instagram was public, filled with shirtless photos and motivational quotes about living your best life. He was handsome in that generic gym rat way, all muscles and white teeth and perfectly styled hair. Younger than me by at least 10 years, probably more. The kind of guy who drove a sports car and wore designer workout clothes and thought protein shakes counted as a food group. I scrolled through his photos, looking for any sign of Helena. I found her in a group shot from 3 months ago, tagged at some charity fitness event. She was wearing workout clothes I'd never seen before, standing close enough to Damon that their shoulders touched. The caption read, "Amazing turnout for the Children's Hospital fundraiser. Special thanks to my training partner Helena for organizing such a successful event." Training partner. Right. I dug deeper, using some of the same tools I used for work. Public records showed Damon lived in a downtown condo worth about $400,000. Not cheap, but not exactly millionaire territory either. He drove a red Mustang convertible, leased, not owned. His social media presence was carefully curated to project success, but the financial reality was more modest. Which made me wonder what he saw in Helena beyond the obvious. She was beautiful, sure, but she wasn't wealthy in her own right. Her gallery job paid well, but not spectacularly. Everything we had came from my business, unless he thought he could get more out of her than just intimacy. My phone rang, interrupting my research. It was my best friend Jake Martinez, calling from his law office downtown. "Eric, what's going on? Helena just called asking about divorce procedures. Said it was for a friend, but you know how that goes." My stomach dropped. She was already planning her exit strategy, probably had been for weeks. While I'd been agonizing over our marriage, she'd been 3 steps ahead, consulting lawyers and covering her tracks. "She's having an affair," I said bluntly. "I found out last night." Jake was quiet for a moment. We'd known each other since college, and he'd been the best man at my wedding. He'd also handled my business contracts for years and knew exactly what a divorce could cost me. "Jesus, Eric, I'm sorry. How long has it been going on?" "At least 6 months, maybe longer. Jake, I need to know what I'm looking at here. Financially, I mean. Massachusetts is a no-fault state, so the adultery won't matter much legally. But given your income disparity and the length of the marriage, you're looking at significant alimony. Plus, she'll probably get the house, or at least half its value. And if she can prove you were neglectful or absent, she might get more." I felt sick. I'd worked my ass off for 18 years to build our life, and now she was going to take half of it to fund her new relationship with a personal trainer. "What are my options?" "Document everything. If you can prove she was planning to leave you anyway, it might help with the settlement. And Eric? Don't do anything stupid. Don't threaten her. Don't harass the boyfriend. Don't make this worse than it already is." After Jake hung up, I sat staring at my coffee, thinking about everything I stood to lose. The house we'd bought when Mia was 5, where I'd taught her to ride a bike in the driveway. The business I'd built from nothing, working 16-hour days in the early years. The retirement account I'd been so proud of, thinking it would give us security in our old age. All of it about to be cut in half because my wife decided she was bored. My phone buzzed with a text from Mia. "Dad, is everything okay? You never call in sick." I'd raised a smart kid. Too smart, maybe. She was majoring in psychology at Boston University, and she had a way of seeing through people's bullshit that reminded me of myself at that age. "Everything's fine," I texted back. "Just need a mental health day." "Bullshit," came her immediate response. "What's really going on?" I almost told her. Almost typed out the whole ugly truth about her mother's affair and the divorce lawyers and the financial devastation heading my way. But she was my daughter, not my therapist. She didn't need to carry this burden. Just work stress. How are classes? Nice deflection. "I'm coming home this weekend. We need to talk." Great. The last thing I needed was Mia getting caught in the middle of this mess, but I knew there was no stopping her once she made up her mind. She got that stubbornness from me. I spent the rest of the day researching Damon Pierce and elite fitness, building a profile of the man who'd helped destroy my marriage. By evening, I had a pretty clear picture of who I was dealing with. Damon was 32, originally from California, no college degree, but several personal training certifications. He'd been in Massachusetts for 2 years, working at Elite Fitness for 18 months. Before that, He'd worked at gyms in Los Angeles and Phoenix. His social media showed a pattern of relationships with older, wealthy women. Never anything explicit, just enough to suggest he had a type. He was a predator, basically. A good-looking guy who targeted married women with money and daddy issues. Helena was just his latest mark. The question was, what was I going to do about it? When Helena came home at 11:30, claiming she'd had dinner and drinks with Claire, I was waiting in the living room with a glass of whiskey and a printout of Damon's Instagram photos. "We need to talk," I said. She looked at the papers in my hand and sighed. "Eric, I told you I'd end it." "No, you told me you'd end it. But then you called a divorce lawyer this morning and told him it was for a friend. So either your friend works very fast, or you're full of shit." Her face went pale. "How did you—" "Jake Martinez is my lawyer too, remember? And my friend. He thought I should know that my wife was asking about divorce procedures." She sat down across from me, smoothing her skirt with hands that shook slightly. "Eric, I was just exploring options. That doesn't mean— It means you've been planning this for a while. The affair, the divorce, all of it. You've been setting me up to be the bad guy while you play the victim of a neglectful husband." I held up the Instagram photos. "Tell me about your training partner." She glanced at the pictures and closed her eyes. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been screwing a personal trainer who specializes in rich, unhappy wives. Congratulations, Helena. You're a walking cliché." That got a reaction. Her eyes snapped open, blazing with anger. "Don't you dare judge me, Eric. You have no idea what it's like being married to someone who treats you like a roommate. So, instead of talking to me about it, you decided to find someone who'd treat you like an intimate toy?" She slapped me. Hard. The sound echoed through our living room like a gunshot. I touched my cheek, feeling the sting, and smiled. "Feel better?" "You bastard." "Maybe. But I'm not the one who broke our marriage vows." I stood up, gathering the papers. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to end things with Damon Pierce. You're going to quit the gym, delete his number, and never see him again. And we're going to try to fix this marriage like adults." "And if I don't?" I looked at her sitting there in her expensive dress, still beautiful, still defiant, still thinking she held all the cards. "Then I'm going to make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of person you really are." Chapter 3. The reckoning begins. Helena didn't end it with Damon. I knew she wouldn't, but I had to give her the chance to do the right thing. Instead, she got better at hiding it. The burner phone disappeared, replaced by a more sophisticated system of communication that probably involved encrypted apps and coded messages. She started working later at the gallery, claiming they were preparing for a major exhibition. Her book club meetings became more frequent, and she developed a sudden interest in yoga classes that seemed to happen at odd hours. She was still seeing him. I could tell by the way she moved, the way she smiled at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, the way she hummed in the shower like a teenager with a crush. But I was getting better at the game too. I installed tracking software on our shared computer, the kind I used for corporate security audits. I set up a network monitor to log all internet traffic in our house. I even bought a small GPS tracker and attached it to her car, not illegal since my name was on the registration. What I found made me sick. Helena and Damon were meeting 3 times a week, sometimes at his condo, sometimes at a cheap motel outside town. The GPS showed she'd been there for hours at a time, usually during her supposed work meetings or book club sessions. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what I found when I hacked into her email account. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a future together. Helena had been researching divorce law, calculating my net worth, even looking at condos in Florida where they could start fresh with my money. The emails were like reading a manual on how to destroy someone's life. Damon. I talked to the lawyer again. He says, if I can prove Eric was emotionally absent and neglectful, I could get up to 60% of the assets plus alimony. The key is documenting his behavior. The late nights, the missed dinners, the way he prioritizes work over family. Baby, you're so smart. Once this is over, we'll have enough to buy that gym in Miami I told you about. Just a few more months of playing the victim. I know it's hard pretending I still care about him, but think about the payoff. We'll be set for life. Reading those emails felt like being stabbed in the chest repeatedly. 18 years of marriage, and she saw me as nothing more than a bank account to be drained. But the real kicker came in an email from 3 days ago. The private investigator I hired got some great photos of Eric coming home drunk from that client dinner last week, and I saved the voicemail where he was yelling about the Morrison contract. My lawyer says this kind of evidence of alcohol abuse and anger issues will really help our case. She'd hired a private investigator to build a case against me. While I'd been trying to save our marriage, she'd been systematically destroying my reputation and documenting every moment of stress or weakness to use against me in court. I sat in my home office, staring at the screen, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. This wasn't just adultery anymore. This was warfare. And Helena had been fighting for months while I was still trying to play by the rules. Well, no more. I printed out every email, every message, every piece of evidence of their conspiracy to defraud me. Then I made copies and stored them in 3 different locations, including a safety deposit box at the bank. Then I called Jake. "I need you to file for divorce," I said without preamble. "Eric, are you sure?" "Yesterday you were talking about counseling. That was before I found out she hired a PI to build a false case against me. Jake, she's been planning this for months. She's documenting everything I do, trying to make me look like an abusive alcoholic so she can take me to the cleaners in court." I heard him typing on his computer. "Can you prove that?" "I can prove everything. The affair, the conspiracy, the financial planning, all of it. I want to file first, and I want to hit her with everything we've got. Eric, slow down. If you go nuclear on this, it's going to get ugly fast. Think about Mia." "I am thinking about Mia. I'm thinking about her college tuition and her future and the fact that her mother is trying to steal it to fund a new life with her boy toy." Jake was quiet for a moment. "Okay. Bring me everything you have. But Eric, once we do this, there's no going back. Are you absolutely sure this is what you want?" I looked around my home office, at the pictures of Helena and me from happier times, at Mia's high school graduation photo, at the life I'd thought we were building together. "I'm sure." That evening, Helena came home with takeout from our favorite Thai restaurant, acting like the perfect wife again. She'd done this several times over the past week, sudden bursts of attention and affection that were probably designed to confuse me or make me feel guilty about what I'd discovered. "I thought we could have a nice dinner together," she said, unpacking containers of pad thai and green curry. "I know things have been tense lately." Tense. I almost laughed. That's one way to put it. She sat across from me at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals together, where we'd helped Mia with her homework, where we'd planned vacations and discussed dreams and built what I thought was a real partnership. "Eric, I want you to know that I'm committed to making this work," she said, reaching across to touch my hand. "I know I made mistakes, but I love you. I love our life together." The performance was flawless. If I hadn't read her emails, hadn't seen the evidence of her betrayal, I might have believed her. Hell, part of me wanted to believe her anyway. "What about Damon?" I asked. "I told you I ended it. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. It meant nothing." "Nothing. Nothing," she repeated firmly. "You're my husband. You're the father of my child. What we have is real." I nodded, playing along with her game. "I'm glad to hear that, because I've been thinking about what you said, about me being absent and neglectful. You're right. I have been working too much." Her eyes brightened, probably thinking her manipulation was working. "I'm so happy you can see that." "I can, and I want to change. In fact, I'm thinking about selling the business, maybe taking early retirement. We could travel, spend more time together. The color drained from her face. Selling my business would mean liquidating assets, moving money around, making it much harder for her to calculate what she could take in a divorce. Sell the business? Eric, that seems extreme. Why? You just said I work too much. This would solve that problem. I smiled at her. Unless you don't really want me to work less? She was trapped, and she knew it. If she argued against me selling the business, she'd be admitting that her complaints about my work schedule were bullshit. If she agreed, she'd be supporting a decision that would complicate her divorce planning. I just think you should consider all your options, she said carefully. Oh, I am. I'm considering all kinds of options. We finished dinner in uncomfortable silence, both of us pretending to be something we weren't. Helena played the loving wife trying to save her marriage. I played the oblivious husband who still believed her lies. But inside, I was planning my own strategy. Helena thought she was the only one who could play games, but she was about to learn that her boring, predictable husband had a few moves of his own. The war was just beginning. Chapter 4. Allies and Enemies. Mia came home that weekend as promised, and I could tell immediately that she knew something was wrong. My daughter had inherited my analytical mind and her mother's intuition, a dangerous combination when it came to reading people. "Dad, you look like hell," she said, dropping her duffel bag in the foyer and giving me a hug that lasted longer than usual. "Thanks, sweetheart. You always know just what to say to boost my ego." She pulled back and studied my face. "I'm serious. You've lost weight, you have bags under your eyes, and you're doing that thing where you smile, but your eyes don't move." "What thing?" "The thing you do when you're really angry but trying to hide it. I've seen it exactly 3 times in my life, and it never ends well for whoever pissed you off." "Smart kid. Too smart." Helena appeared from the kitchen, all smiles and maternal warmth. "Mia! Honey, you're early. I was just starting dinner." "Hey, Mom." Mia hugged Helena, but kept glancing at me over her mother's shoulder. "Everything okay here? Dad seems stressed." "Oh, you know your father. Work, work, work. I keep telling him he needs to slow down, but he won't listen to me." I watched Helena perform, marveling at how easily she slipped into the role of concerned wife. If I didn't know better, I'd believe her myself. "Actually," I said, "I've been thinking about what your mom said. I might sell the business, take some time off." Mia's eyebrows shot up. "Seriously? Dad, you love that company. You built it from nothing." "Sometimes you have to know when to walk away," I said, watching Helena's face carefully. She was trying to look supportive, but I could see the panic in her eyes. We had dinner together like a normal family, discussing Mia's classes and her boyfriend and her plans for spring break. Helena played the perfect mother, asking all the right questions and making all the appropriate comments. But I noticed she was drinking more wine than usual, and her laugh sounded forced. After dinner, Mia cornered me in my office while Helena was in the shower. "Okay, what's really going on?" she demanded, closing the door behind her. "And don't give me any bullshit about work stress. I know you better than that." I looked at my daughter, 19 years old, smart as hell, and too perceptive for her own good. She deserved to know the truth, but I didn't want to poison her relationship with her mother. "Your mom and I are having some problems," I said carefully. "What kind of problems?" "The kind that might end in divorce." Mia sat down hard in the chair across from my desk. "Jesus, Dad, how bad is it?" "Pretty bad." She was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she said something that surprised me. "Is she cheating on you?" I stared at her. "What makes you ask that?" "She's been acting weird for months. New clothes, new perfume, always on her phone. Plus she asked me about my spring break plans like 3 times, which she never does unless she's planning something she doesn't want me to know about." My daughter, the psychology major. Nothing got past her. "Yeah," I said quietly. "She's cheating." Shit. Mia ran her hands through her hair, a gesture she'd inherited from me. Dad, I'm so sorry. What are you going to do? I'm going to divorce her and try to salvage what I can from the wreckage. Good. You deserve better than someone who'd do that to you. Her fierce loyalty made my chest tight. Mia, I don't want you to hate your mother. Too late for that. I've been watching her lie to your face for months, and I've been wondering if I should say something. I guess I should have. This isn't your fault, sweetheart. None of it. I know, but I could have saved you some pain if I'd spoken up sooner. She leaned forward. Dad, what can I do to help? Nothing. I don't want you involved in this mess. I'm already involved. She's my mother and you're my father, and she's trying to screw you over. That makes it my business. I was about to argue when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your wife is at the Riverside Motel with Damon Pierce right now. Room 237. Thought you should know. A friend. I stared at the message, my blood turning to ice. Helena was supposed to be in the shower, getting ready for bed. Instead, she was at a motel with her boyfriend, probably laughing about how gullible her husband was. Dad? What is it? I showed her the text. Mia read it, her face hardening. Who sent this? I don't know, but I'm going to find out if it's true. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Dad, you're not thinking clearly right now. You need backup, someone to keep you from doing something stupid. She was right, and I hated that she was right. I was angry enough to drive to that motel and kick down the door, which would only give Helena more ammunition to use against me in court. Fine. But you stay in the car, no matter what happens. 20 minutes later, we were sitting in my Honda Civic in the parking lot of the Riverside Motel, staring at Helena's BMW parked outside room 237. The lights were on, and I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. Well, Mia said quietly, at least now you know for sure. I felt strangely calm, like the anger had burned so hot it had turned cold. I need pictures. Dad, for the divorce, I need evidence. I got out of the car and walked toward the window, keeping to the shadows. The curtains weren't completely closed, leaving a gap of about 2 inches. Through it, I could see Helena and Damon on the bed, and I took several photos with my phone before my stomach turned, and I had to look away. When I got back to the car, Mia was on her phone. I just sent Mom a text asking if she needed anything from the store. Let's see what she says. A minute later, Helena replied, No thanks, honey. Just getting ready for bed. See you in the morning. Unbelievable, Mia muttered. She's still lying even when she knows we're not home. We drove back in silence, both lost in our own thoughts. When we got to the house, Helena's car wasn't there yet. She was probably still at the motel, or maybe she'd gone somewhere else to establish an alibi. I'm going to bed, Mia said when we got inside. But Dad, whatever you decide to do about this, I'm on your team, okay? Okay. She hugged me goodnight, and I went to my office to add the new photos to my growing file of evidence. By the time Helena came home an hour later, I was in bed pretending to be asleep. She slipped into the bathroom, probably to shower off the smell of another man, then crawled into bed beside me like nothing had happened. Eric, she whispered, are you awake? I didn't answer. I just lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, planning my next move. The game was about to change, and Helena had no idea what was coming. Chapter 5. The Trap. Monday morning, I did something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I followed my wife to work. Helena left the house at her usual time, kissing me goodbye and reminding me that she had a late meeting with a potential client. Another lie to add to the collection. I gave her a 10-minute head start, then got in my car and drove toward downtown. But instead of going to the Whitmore Gallery, Helena drove to Elite Fitness. She parked next to the red Mustang I recognized from Damon's Instagram photos and walked inside like she owned the place. I parked across the street and waited. 20 minutes later, they came out together, Helena wearing workout clothes I'd never seen before. They got into Damon's Mustang and drove toward the interstate. I followed them to a coffee shop in the next town over, far enough from our neighborhood that they were unlikely to run into anyone we knew. Through the window, I watched them hold hands across a small table, Helena laughing at something Damon said like she was a teenager on her first date. It was sickening, but it was also exactly what I needed. I took photos from my car, then went inside and sat at a table where I could hear their conversation. They were so wrapped up in each other that they never noticed me. "The lawyer says we need to be more careful," Helena was saying. "Eric's been acting suspicious lately." "Baby, relax. The guy's clueless. He has no idea what's coming. I hope you're right, because if he finds out about us before the divorce is final, it could complicate things." Damon reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Trust me. In 6 months, we'll be in Miami running our own gym, and your boring husband will be a bad memory. God, I can't wait. I'm so tired of pretending to care about his stupid business stories and his pathetic attempts at romance." They both laughed, and I had to grip my coffee cup to keep from standing up and confronting them right there. But I needed them to feel safe, to keep talking, to give me more ammunition. "Speaking of which," Damon continued, "did you get those financial documents I asked for?" "They're in my car. Bank statements, investment accounts, business valuations, everything you need to calculate our target number." "You're amazing, baby. Most women would never be this smart about divorce planning." Helena preened under his praise. "I told you I'm not most women. I've been planning this for over a year." Over a year. She'd been planning to destroy our marriage for over a year, probably since before she'd even met Damon. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of weakness. This was premeditated betrayal. They spent another hour discussing their plans. How they'd split my assets, where they'd live, what kind of business they'd buy with my money. Helena even talked about keeping the house and renting it out for additional income. When they finally left, I sat in the coffee shop for another 20 minutes, processing what I'd heard. Then I drove to Jake's office. "Jesus Christ, Eric," Jake said after listening to the recordings I'd made on my phone. "She's not just cheating on you, she's planning to rob you blind." "Can we use this in court?" "Absolutely. This proves fraud, conspiracy, and premeditation. A judge will not be sympathetic to someone who's been systematically planning to defraud their spouse." "What about the recordings? Are they legal?" "You were in a public place. They were speaking loud enough for other people to hear. It's perfectly legal." Jake leaned back in his chair. "Eric, this changes everything. With evidence like this, you could end up with the majority of assets instead of losing them." For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. "There's more," I said, and told him about the mysterious text that had led us to the motel. "Someone else knows about the affair. Someone who wanted me to find out." "Any idea who?" "I'm working on it." That evening, Helena came home with flowers, roses, my usual go-to gift for her. The irony wasn't lost on me. "What's the occasion?" I asked. "Do I need an occasion to buy flowers for my husband?" She stood on her toes to kiss me, and I had to fight the urge to pull away. "I've been thinking about what we discussed, about spending more time together. Maybe we could plan a weekend getaway?" "That sounds nice." I took the flowers, wondering if she'd bought them with the credit card I paid for, using my money to fund her performance as a loving wife. "I was thinking maybe the Berkshires, that little bed and breakfast we went to for our 10th anniversary. The place where we'd renewed our vows, promising to love and honor each other until death do us part. She wanted to take me back there while she was planning to divorce me and steal my money." "Sure," I said. "Let me check my schedule." She beamed like she'd just solved all our problems. "Great, I'll make the reservations." After dinner, while Helena was in the shower, I got another text from the unknown number. "Check your wife's car, glove compartment. You'll want to see what's inside." I looked toward the stairs, listening to the sound of running water, then grabbed Helena's car keys and went outside. In the glove compartment, I found a manila envelope containing copies of all our financial documents. Bank statements, investment portfolios, business valuations, even my personal tax returns from the past 3 years. everything Damon would need to calculate exactly how much money they could steal from me. But there was something else in the envelope, a handwritten note from Helena to Damon. Here's everything you asked for. I also included Eric's business client list, in case we want to start our own consulting firm later. I love you so much. Can't wait to start our real life together. She wasn't just planning to take my money. She was planning to steal my clients and compete with my business. I photographed everything, then put it back exactly as I'd found it. As I walked back toward the house, my phone buzzed with another text from the mystery number. Now you know what you're really dealing with. Time to fight back. Whoever was sending these messages was right. I'd spent weeks gathering evidence and planning legal strategies, but Helena and Damon were moving faster than I'd anticipated. They weren't just planning to divorce me, they were planning to destroy me completely. Well, two could play that game. I had evidence of fraud, conspiracy, and theft. I had recordings of them planning to steal my money and my business, and I had something else. A growing network of allies who were apparently as disgusted by Helena's behavior as I was. It was time to stop playing defense and start playing offense. The real war was about to begin. Chapter 6. The Final Confrontation. The anonymous texts led me to more evidence than I'd ever imagined possible. Bank records showing Helena had opened a secret account. Photos of her and Damon at restaurants, hotels, even looking at condos in Miami. Someone had been watching them for months, documenting everything. But the real bombshell came on a Thursday afternoon. Your wife is planning to clean out your accounts tomorrow while you're at the Morrison meeting. Damon will be at the bank with her. Thought you should know. I stared at the message, my hands shaking. Tomorrow was Friday, and I did have a crucial meeting with Morrison Industries, my biggest client. Helena knew I'd be tied up for hours, unable to monitor our accounts or respond quickly if something went wrong. She was planning to rob me blind while I was working to pay for our life. I called Jake immediately. They're going to try to empty our accounts tomorrow. Can they do that legally? If her name is on the accounts, technically yes. But given the evidence we have of fraud and conspiracy, we can get it back. The question is whether you want to let them try. What do you mean? We could let them take the money, then nail them for theft and fraud. With video evidence of them at the bank, plus all the planning documents you found, it would be an open and shut case. Or we could stop them before they try. File an emergency injunction, freeze the accounts, force them to show their hand in court. I thought about it for 30 seconds. Let's stop them. I'm done playing games. That evening, Helena was practically glowing with excitement, though she tried to hide it. She made my favorite dinner, opened an expensive bottle of wine, and spent the entire meal talking about our future together. I've been thinking about that weekend getaway, she said, refilling my wine glass. Maybe we should make it a longer trip, a week in the Caribbean, just the two of us. That sounds expensive. We can afford it. You work so hard, Eric. You deserve to enjoy the fruits of your labor. The irony was breathtaking. She was planning to steal my money while encouraging me to spend it on a romantic getaway that would never happen. Actually, I said, I've been thinking about our finances lately. Maybe we should consolidate some accounts, make things simpler. Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. Consolidate? You know, put everything in one account. Make it easier to track our spending, plan for retirement. I don't think that's necessary. Our current system works fine. Does it? I feel like we're not communicating well about money. Maybe we should see a financial planner, get some professional advice. She was starting to panic. I could see it in her eyes. Eric, let's not make any major changes right now. We're in a good place financially. Are we? Because I've been looking at our statements, and there are some transactions I don't recognize. The color drained from her face. What kind of transactions? Cash withdrawals, transfers to accounts I've never seen before. Helena, is there something you need to tell me? She set down her fork and reached across the table to take my hand. Eric, honey, you're scaring me. Are you feeling okay? You've been acting so paranoid lately. Classic Helena, when caught in a lie, attack the other person's mental state. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I'm feeling fine. Better than I have in months, actually. It's amazing how clear things become when you stop believing lies. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the exact second when she realized I knew everything. Her face went from concerned wife to calculating adversary in the space of a heartbeat. What do you want, Eric? I want my wife back. The woman I married, not this stranger who's been living in my house and plotting against me. That woman never existed. She was just what you wanted to see. The honesty was almost refreshing after months of lies. So what now? Helena stood up, smoothing her dress. Now we get divorced like civilized adults. You keep your business, I keep the house, and we both move on with our lives. What about Damon? What about him? Are you going to keep pretending he doesn't exist? She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, Eric, you still don't get it, do you? Damon isn't the problem, he's just a symptom. The problem is that you're boring, predictable, and emotionally unavailable. I settled for you 18 years ago, and I'm done settling. The words hit like physical blows, but I kept my voice steady. And the money? The secret accounts? The financial documents you've been copying? Her eyes widened slightly. She hadn't expected me to know about that. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. The envelope in your car, the bank records, the business client list you copied for Damon. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Helena sat back down, her mask finally slipping completely. How long have you known? Long enough. The question is, what are we going to do about it? What do you want? I want you to call off whatever you're planning for tomorrow. I want you to end things with Damon, and I want you to sign a post-nuptial agreement that protects my business and my assets. And if I don't? I pulled out my phone and played the recording from the coffee shop, Helena's voice clear as she talked about stealing my money and starting a new life with her boyfriend. If you don't, I'll destroy you in court. I'll make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of person you are. Your job, your reputation, your relationship with Mia, all of it will be gone. Helena listened to her own voice planning my destruction, her face growing paler with each word. When the recording ended, she was quiet for a long time. You bastard, she said finally. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting myself from a woman who was planning to rob me blind. There's a difference. I could have you arrested for stalking. With what evidence? Everything I did was legal. Can you say the same about your activities? She knew she was trapped. I had recordings, photographs, financial documents, and witnesses. She had nothing but lies and manipulation, and those only worked when the other person didn't know they were being manipulated. What kind of post-nup are you talking about? She asked quietly. The kind that leaves you with enough to start over but not enough to fund a new life with your boyfriend. You get the house, I keep the business and my retirement accounts. Alimony for 5 years, not lifetime, and a clause that voids everything if you continue the affair. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed. You were planning to steal everything I've worked for and use it to start a business with the man you've been cheating with. Don't talk to me about fair. Helena was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. Finally, she looked up at me with something that might have been respect. You're not the man I married, she said. No, I agreed. I'm not. That man was naive enough to trust you. This man knows better. She nodded slowly. I'll need time to think about it. You have until tomorrow morning. After that, I file for divorce and release everything I have to the court and the press. Helena went upstairs without another word. I sat at the kitchen table, finishing my wine and thinking about the man I'd been 6 months ago, trusting, naive, willing to believe the best of people even when the evidence suggested otherwise. That man was gone, replaced by someone harder and more cynical. Someone who understood that love wasn't always enough, that trust had to be earned, and that sometimes the people closest to you were the ones most likely to betray you. My phone buzzed with one final text from the unknown number. "Well done." She never saw it coming. I stared at the message, then typed back, "Who are you?" The response came immediately. "Someone who believes in justice. Sleep well, Eric. You've earned it." I never did find out who had been helping me, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that I'd finally fought back, finally stood up for myself, instead of just taking whatever Helena decided to dish out. The next morning, Helena signed the post-nuptial agreement. She ended things with Damon, quit the gym, and moved into the guest bedroom. We lived like polite strangers for 6 months until the divorce was final. I kept my business, my retirement accounts, and my self-respect. Helena got the house and enough money to start over, but not enough to fund the luxury lifestyle she'd been planning with Damon. Mia was proud of me for fighting back, though she was disappointed in her mother for a long time. Eventually, they rebuilt their relationship, but it was never quite the same. As for me, I learned that sometimes the people you love most are capable of hurting you in ways you never imagined. But I also learned that you don't have to be a victim, that you can fight back and win if you're smart about it. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you'll have allies you never knew existed helping you along the way.